Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Listen Up Girl podcast, your go-to source for smart, sharp, unapologetic LGBTQ plus news. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman, and today we've got a packed lineup that moves from sports fields to Studio 8H, from Southern health equity to national organizations pushing back against anti-trans narratives. And yes, we're also talking about some troubling comments out of Hollywood that deserve a serious response. Today's stories remind us of something important. Visibility is powerful, but it's not always easy. Whether it's an athlete finding peace after coming out, queer performers stepping into mainstream spaces, or organizations defending trans inclusion, the through line is courage, so let's get into it. First, AFL star Mitch Brown says coming out brought peace, comfort, and confidence. Former Australian Football League player Mitch Brown is speaking openly about how coming out as bisexual changed his life, and not just publicly, but personally. Brown played 10 seasons with the West Coast Eagles before making history last August when he publicly shared that he's bisexual. Now, ahead of Mardi Gras celebrations, he's reflected on that experience in an interview on Melbourne Breakfast. He said coming out has brought him peace, comfort, and confidence, not only in his identity, but in sharing that identity with others. And I want to pause there because those three words, peace, comfort, and confidence, are not small things, especially in professional sports, where hypermasculinity and silence have historically dominated locker rooms. Brown described talking about his sexuality as a form of therapy. Even though his coming out unfolded in public eye, he emphasized that it is also a very deeply personal story. Before coming out, he said hiding part of himself led to overthinking, to imagining worst-case scenarios that never actually materialized. You've got you and your thoughts, and you just make up things that are not really reality and think that they're going to be worse, and they're not, he said. That's such a relatable statement for so many queer people, the fear of rejection, the anticipation of backlash, the internal spiral. And while not every coming out story is simple or safe, Brown's experience underscores something powerful. Authenticity can be freeing. Visibility in men's professional sports still matters. It creates space for the next athlete who might be quietly wrestling with their identity. Representation isn't abstract, it's deeply human. And we're staying with sports as we talk about NHL Unite's Pride Cup, Seattle versus Vancouver. Speaking of sports and visibility, this weekend, Seattle and Vancouver are facing off in British Columbia for the NHL Unite's Pride Cup. The event brings together teams, fans, and communities in a celebration of inclusion and unity within hockey, a sport that, like many others, has faced tension and controversy around pride initiatives in recent years. The Unite's Pride Cup is about more than just a trophy. It's about reaffirming that LGBTQ plus fans and players belong in arenas, in locker rooms, and in broader hockey culture. In a moment where some leagues have pulled back on visible pride celebrations due to political pressure, events like this matter. They send the message that inclusion isn't optional, it's foundational. Sports culture is shifting, sometimes unevenly, but visibly. For the queer youth watching this from the stands or from their living rooms, that shift can mean everything. And if you have not heard my other podcast, Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay, I had an amazing interview with Jesse Cordum, who was a hockey player that came out. It was all over the news about a month and a half ago. And also AJ Ogilvy, who was a basketball player in Australia, who also came out. So they are two amazing people, and I feel very privileged to be able to had a chance to talk with them. So check those out on Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay on all podcast platforms. Our next story is Connor Storrie's host Saturday Night Live. From the ice rink to Studio 8H, Connor Storrie, breakout star of the hit cable drama Heated Rivalry, just hit a major career milestone, hosting Saturday Night Live for the first time. Storrie's leap from queer-centered cable drama to mainstream late-night television is a significant cultural moment. Hosting SNL is still considered one of those entertainment industry rites of passage, and Storrie brought range. His monologue blended heartfelt reflections with sharp humor. Throughout the night, he moved seamlessly from satire to celebration, proving he's not just a drama lead, he's a versatile performer. One of the loudest cheers of the evening came when his heated Rivalry co-star, Hudson Williams, surprised the audience with a cameo during an ice skating sketch set at Rockefeller Center. Their chemistry, playful, warm, easy, lit up the stage and social media timelines alike. The episode also featured appearances from U.S. Olympic hockey figures and musical guest Mumford & Sons, creating a kind of pop culture crossover moment where queer storytelling, sports energy, and mainstream comedy all intersect. For queer audiences, this wasn't just another hosting gig, it was a signal. A reminder that LGBTQ plus actors are not confined to niche categories. They are leading shows, headlining networks, and anchoring cultural moments. Visibility has evolved from guest appearances to center stage, and that matters. I am going to watch that today, and I cannot wait to watch it because I love Connor and I love Hudson. So next we go to Georgia, where Savannah Pride to host LGBTQ plus Health Summit. So let's shift to health equity because visibility without access is incomplete. Savannah Pride is hosting its second annual LGBTQ plus Health Summit at the Martin Luther King Jr. Civil Center in Georgia. The day-long event will bring together healthcare providers, advocates, public health professionals, and community leaders to address urgent challenges facing LGBTQ plus communities across the South. The theme this year is Equity Under Pressure, Advancing Care Through Challenge and Change. The title alone says so much. Michael Bell, the executive director of Savannah Pride Center, didn't mince words. He said, "We're navigating political turbulence and systematic gaps in care that directly impact LGBTQIA plus lives. The summit is about equipping providers and communities with the tools, collaboration, and resilience needed to respond because equity isn't optional, it's life-saving." The summit will feature 2 educational tracks and sessions focused on trauma-informed care, the impact of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, domestics and sexual violence in queer communities, substance abuse and eating disorders, HIV and STI prevention, and the needs of LGBTQ plus elders. In a region where healthcare disparities are already pronounced and where legislative pressure has intensified, gatherings like this are more than conferences. They're acts of community defense. Healthcare access isn't political rhetoric, it's survival. Registration and sponsorship opportunities are currently open for those interested in participating. Next, we go to Shia LaBeouf's comments that spark outrage. We need to talk about something more troubling. Actor Shia LaBeouf is facing backlash after making openly homophobic remarks while discussing his recent arrest in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. In an interview released on Saturday, LaBeouf attributed his arrest to what he described as fear of big gay people. He said, quote, "When I'm standing by myself and 3 gays are next to me touching my leg, I get scared. If that's homophobic, then I'm that." He also stated, "I'm good with gay. Be gay over there, though. Don't be gay in my lap." The comments followed his arrest on 2 counts of simple battery after allegedly hitting 2 people outside a Royal Street business during Mardi Gras celebrations. Let's be clear, intoxication doesn't excuse bigotry. Framing queer people as inherently threatening feeds into decades-old stereotypes that have justified violence and discrimination. This is not LaBeouf's first public controversy. He has a prior arrest and past allegations, including a 2020 lawsuit filed by his ex-partner, FKA Twigs, alleging abuse, a case that has later settled out of court. But what stands out here is the language. When public figures characterize queer presence as scary or something that needs to be kept over there, it reinforces the idea that LGBTQ people are inherently intrusive or dangerous. That rhetoric has consequences and accountability matters. So to put my take on this, I actually watched this interview on YouTube, and my opinion is he is a little mentally off right now. There's something, he was not looking at the interviewer in the eyes at all. He was looking down. He was not dressed for an interview. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt to an interview on television. And I don't think the LGBTQ people or the gay people that he was there were sitting in his lap, and I wasn't there, so I don't know if they were touching his leg, or Mardi Gras is very crowded, so somebody could have touched him in those big crowds, but I don't think his reaction was it. So that is my opinion, though. And Scouting America pushes back on anti-trans claims. Finally, Scouting America is pushing back against claims that transgender youth would be excluded from the organization. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently suggested in a social media video that the group would modify its policy to limit membership based solely on biological sex at birth. But Scouting America's president and CEO, Roger Crone, told the Associated Press directly, "We have transgender people in our program, and we will have transgender people in our program going forward." That statement is significant. As federal agencies see shifts in diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, there has been growing anxiety about how national organizations will respond. Scouting America's clear public affirmation sends a strong message: transgender youth belong. They are part of the organization's present and future. In a climate where misinformation spreads quickly, direct statement like this matters. They provide clarity and reassurance to families who feel uncertain. Inclusion isn't theory. It's about real kids, real communities, and real belonging. So that's today's stories that remind us that progress and pushback often exist side by side. An athlete finding peace in his truth, public figures held accountable when harmful words are spoken. The LGBTQ plus community has always existed at the intersection of celebration and resistance, and we'll keep covering both. Thank you for listening to the Listen Up Girl podcast. If you found value in today's episode, share it, rate it, and send it to someone who needs a breakdown of what's happening in our community and beyond. I'm Zach Randles-Friedman. Stay informed, stay loud, and I'll see you later this week with more LGBTQ plus news. Thank you for listening.